There were a bunch of next to us in the theater, and man, were they just eating this shit up. They were jumping so much to the point that their jumping was also making me because I was seeing like body parts in the corner of my eye, and they kept going like,
welcome back to the Alter Ego Bros. I'm Andy, that's Nick, and today we're going to be talking about Insidious Beyond the Further. But before we get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out a lot. YouTube doesn't like small channels anymore, so please help us. Without further ado, I scored this a simple 5 out of 10. I thought it was mid. I thought it was really good. But, you know, wasn't anything special by any means.
I gave it a 7 out of 10. And I don't seem to be a huge fan of this series or possession movies in general, it seems. I thought I was, but I really don't think I am. But after watching the first movie and like half of the second, I hated those movies so much that this was such a breath of fresh air that it really surprised me.
All right, so that's going to put it at a 6 on our tier list. Yeah, so I genuinely think that my 5 out of 10 is disingenuous to what the film is, because I actually thought it had a lot of great things going for it. Ultimately, what it boils down to me is that it just needed more time. It's an hour 45 film, but like I think it had a storyline that deserved another 45 minutes. And if you allowed some of those plot lines to just cook a little bit and just build up versus just jumping to like the next thing because you kind of just run out of time, it really would have benefited it really well. And part of that is too because the antagonist in this film I thought was just really, really cool. Like it's an antagonist that I really thought deserved like a part 2. Like this could have been a 2-part type of movie if you're going to have this first one be so short. I just really liked the whole jumping between worlds and trying to get the dead into the current world. I just thought that was really cool. I thought the whole concept was good, but negative wise, it ultimately just comes down to time. It just needed more time to cook.
Story-wise, I thought it did some really good things. I thought it took some parts from other movies. Like I could see influence from things such like Smile 2 and The Backrooms that I thought putting that in this series really did elevate it. However, it wasn't like better than either of those at any point, but it was better than the previous iteration. So I think on the whole, the story really improved compared to the other 5, especially when we get to the end and how the story kind of circled back to itself and we get to see the beginning scene from a different perspective. I thought that was really cool. I thought that was well done. And then we see it bleed over into the future and the relationship with the current mom and her daughter 10 minutes later, and we get to see that evolution. So that's another like full circle moment. And I thought all of that was really cool. I do think the series as a whole really suffers from not exploring villains, kind of like you said. I think these are some of like kind of lamest looking like designed villains I've ever seen. When you look at the rest of the cast of characters that are the ghosts, the demons or whatever, it's just like there's some people with some white makeup and dark eyes, and that's a majority of them. There are some cooler ones in there, but it's like I don't have any sort of like, oh shit, this is so and so and they mean business. Like I had no idea who this dude was and why we should care about him as a cult leader, and he just shows up in here and I don't know. I thought it really let itself down on that side of things.
Honestly, don't have much more to talk about.
That's it. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.
Special effects, you got the job done. I mean, it's an $18 million budget movie, right? I think this is where I kind of want. I mean, is there anything specific you want to talk about?
So in special effects, I really enjoyed the whole backrooms like sofa scene. I thought that was really fun. It felt very claustrophobic, and I think they paid attention to the details of like what a couch is like in that aspect and how it felt very claustrophobic. And like just thinking about it, I was already like flashed back into when I made Couch 4 shorts, and I'm like, they get hot in there. And I was man, that's gotta be super hot in there. And then she starts squeezing through the pillows, right? And I was like, what an interesting idea to like escape through the pillows that way. And then ultimately it didn't really matter. But I think that the gross out factors that they had, especially in like the dentist scene, I thought the effects were good there. Traveling back and forth between the further, I thought some of those transitions were done really well. But yeah, it's not really anything to write home about at the same time.
Yeah, I thought one of the places that actually surprised me with its execution was, and you kind of alluded to it earlier, was when they did go back in time and you saw the different perspective of like this third person perspective of what we saw in the very beginning of the film. Simple things like the door shutting. We think like just the antagonist itself had a superpower that slammed the door or something like that, or maybe the mom did. But when you learn that it was like just an older version of herself, it was like really cool. And it kind of reminded me of like the third Harry Potter film when they go back in time and had that kind of little twist on it too. So typically a movie like this with a smaller budget and whatnot is typically they're not going to really think through those details very well, and you're going to have a lot of non-connected pieces, or you're going to have a lot of cop-out things that suddenly appear at the end that they didn't allude to earlier on. So I was actually very surprised by how much they alluded to earlier on to make that tie-in together. It's an $18 million budget film. I wonder if like a lot of conversations are going to start to revolve around some of these YouTubers that are coming into the game, working with a much smaller budget, but yet making these storylines that are just seemingly flawless and so intriguing that you have people who don't typically watch a horror type film or know anything about the backrooms wanting to go watch it because they heard about that, or Obsession. And when you can make something like Obsession that grossed $200 million, maybe more, something like that, they made that for like less than $2 million. And then it goes to my point where I just always feel like the story is the most important part and it's the cheapest part. So I always felt like if there were moments that just really that needed to cook more, that needed a little bit more time to write, then do that. Spend your money there, or just go home, work later, and work for free as the director and tweak some of this stuff. That's where I kind of just get frustrated. And it's like when I know what's possible for $2 million and I see something that's 9 times that, I expect something 9 times the quality, and you just don't see that. And so I do ponder the question to Hollywood. It's like, where is your money being spent? I'm genuinely confused by that at this point.
So I think that speaks to like the movie making machine as a whole. So in this instance, this is a Blumhouse movie, right? And we've seen plenty of their movies this year. I'm not going to name them off the top of my head, but we can put them on the screen somewhere. And their whole business model is about just kind of cranking out horror movies, and it's less so about quality as it is quantity for them. And I think they still make their money back and then some on the few that do hit. For instance, like the Friday Nights at Freddy's movies. That's Blumhouse. That came out last December, and that did gangbusters money-wise. So it doesn't really matter if the next few this year miss, as long as they get another one that people like just enough that'll rocket it back up there, that they can keep doing this over and over and over. The writer and director for this was Jacob Chase, who's kind of newer to movie making. This is like the first big major film that Jacob's done, and I thought it was pretty good for a first-time filmmaker, but you could definitely tell that it was a first-time filmmaker. And while I agree that like it's important for studios to be able to take chances on people like this, I do think it would be better if they left it to a fresh opportunity rather than these sequel after sequel after sequel after sequel type thing. And I'm sick of seeing the same thing. Like literally, Insidious and the Conjuring movies starred the same actors at one point, and it was hard for me to even tell them apart before I watched them. And even then, the stories are so similar and so stupid that I can't be bothered to do anything with it. So,
but don't just take our word for it. Let's see what the internet has to say. So online, it looks like the audience has scored this about a 6.5 out of 10, while critics are more towards a 5.5 out of 10. Once again, we're right in line. This always feels good, man. But what does it mean? What does it mean? Let us know down below what it means.
It feels like we're making it up, but we really don't tell each other our scores until we start filming.
Since we're kind of negative with our positive scores, let's look at somebody who's more positive with their positive score. What's happening?
You weren't listening. You'll see it in post.
Okay. Here's a 10 out of 10. Amazing sequel. This film is a standout horror sequel that easily outpaces its predecessors in tension and atmosphere. Instead of relying on cheap tricks, it builds on relentless sense of dread using smart misdirection, flawless timing, and tight, claustrophobic camera work. The jump scares are genuinely clever playing with your expectations so you never see them coming. Add in a sharp, unpredictable plot and grounded characters you actually root for, and you get a rare horror entry that hits all the right notes.
I think it was definitely predictable, but as I said before, I do agree to the extent that like this is better than the other ones, but I think the other ones are like a 3 out of 10 at best. So you got a ways to go if you want to be swinging for the big dogs here, especially after this year has already been pretty big for horror movies in general.
When they say standout horror sequel, I think it stands out as far as the series goes, but it's not a standout horror as in like horror movies in general. Like this is easily overlooked. When it comes to jump scares though, there were quite a few jump scares. Typically, I don't care for jump scares because they're a bit cheesy. I think they made sense where they did them in this one, but at the same time, it just like almost became overdone and became annoying where I was starting to predict and jump scare in 3, 2, 1. There it is. And when I'm starting to do that, then you've already taken me out of this whole world and this whole immersion, and you failed in that direction.
So on that, there were a bunch of Gen Xers next to us in the theater, and man, were they just eating this shit up. They were getting scared left and right. They were jumping so much to the point that their jumping was also making me jump because I was seeing like body parts in the corner of my eye, and they kept going like, oh, ow! Like it was comic. Like I was just dying, and Rory was dying too. We were laughing at them, but every single time a jump scare happened, you would hear, oh! I was like, Jesus Christ, dude.
Thank you for making it all the way to the end while Nick takes a drink and I have to redo this one. Thank you for making it all the way to the end. We really appreciate that. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. And remember, we're just two regular dudes
doing regular reviews. Take our shirts off.